Welcome everyone. This is once again your host Shailesh bringing you live from NZ World News. Always we try to bring positive information, positive news, and give you the best of what our nation's direction is. So today I have a pleasure of inviting the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand, Mr. David Seymour. Welcome, David. This is absolutely a pleasure and honor to introduce you to our audiences who are quite keen because lots of things have happened, lots of things have gone since you became the deputy, but also since you made a huge difference to the nation by shaking up from one person of your party to from 2014 and now coming up to like making the decisive decisions for the nation. So I am really proud to invite you and to take your insights today. David, this is all about, we are going to discuss today a candid conversation about you and your party, the way you have shaped up, not just your party, but also the shaped up the New Zealand country as a nation, and also to make a difference in the policy making, taking the initiatives and responsibilities, which is quite very daunting can be at times for a person to take many portfolios which will make policy decisions, right? So thank you so much once again, David. Welcome to this beautiful NZ World News podcast that we started a few years ago, and we have been really trying to our best to give. So tell us something about first thing. Let me just once again thank you for taking your time, valuable to come and talk to us. Tell us something about your journey, the way you think, and what's your vision and the goals in it now at this point for our country.
Well, I think anyone who lives in a country like New Zealand is very lucky. We're
Mm,
very lucky to live here at this time in history when things have never been better, despite what
sure.
people say. We have better technology, more prosperity, more opportunity,
Mm,
more tolerance of difference than we've had before. These are very good times. And if you've had the good luck to
mm,
be born into or to come to and live in a country like this, you should ask yourself, why is it a success and how can I contribute to that? My conclusion is that New Zealand succeeds because we have good policies,
mm,
because we are free traders. We have relatively low taxes, although they could be a lot lower.
mm,
We have a very good set of rules and customs around doing what you say you're going to do, trusting people. There's no shortage of areas where we could be doing better, but compared with most places at most times in history, we're doing very well. And
mm.
that's because we have good policies. So
Sure.
my goal is to try and contribute to that so that I'm not just benefiting from it, but also contributing to it.
And I'm sure, like, since you became, you have taken portfolios like education, which is the key, as you rightly have taken that also. And then also you have been finance is one of your portfolio and the health as well, which is quite important. Your controversial or your debatable for public and for policymakers can be controversial for many things, but that's besides the point. What you have taken the portfolio is what makes New Zealand and what makes our country in a better shape for internationally. Tell me something about those portfolios that you took.
Well, education is the number one predictor of where
Mm,
we will be in 20, 30, 40 years' time.
mm,
The only question that really matters for any society is how much knowledge do they pass from one generation to the next?
so,
Because an educated society can
mm,
overcome challenges and solve
absolutely.
problems. An uneducated society can squander great prosperity and do it very fast.
Mm,
So it's critical we pass knowledge from one generation to the next. What does that mean? Well, first of all,
mm,
you've got to get people in one place.
mm,
In order to transfer the knowledge, you have to have school attendance. And
mm,
that's why I think it's critical that we increase the number of children who regularly attend school. We've had some success already. That's up about 10%. We need to get it up another 20% or so to around 80. At that
sure.
point, we can say, look, we're doing pretty well. Maybe not perfect, but pretty
Mm,
well. So getting more children to school matters. What do they learn when they're there? We're
mm,
upgrading the curriculum so that the curriculum actually has knowledge in it. You know,
mm.
students between year one and year 10, under the new science curriculum, they're going to learn 82 different scientists. I think that's fantastic.
Mm,
We're going to teach real science. We're going to teach the history of science, the discoveries of humanity that make our life possible.
mm,
These are really, really positive developments. So they're a rich curriculum
mm,
that has real knowledge in it. And then there's the question of how do you teach it? Well, you need one teacher standing at the front of a class,
mm,
teaching a curriculum, and then you need to test it.
mm.
We're going to have exams where you have to sit, you have to study, you have to pass. You can't just take a few soft credits under the NCEA, letting yourself down and letting everyone around you down by taking the soft option. So,
Mm,
in education, we're getting kids to school, we're making sure the curriculum's right, we're getting rid of these three classrooms joined together, just one classroom with one teacher, and then
yeah.
we're testing at the end to see if they got it. That's absolutely critical for the future of our society.
Mm,
You talk a bit about finance.
mm.
Government's got to get value for money. We're spending 140 billion a year. Uh,
Right.
we've spent a huge amount of extra money in the last 5 years in New Zealand, but we haven't got results. So the new government, we are restricting ourselves to about 1.7% a year spending increase.
Right.
Now, you think about it, the population goes up about 1% a year.
Mm,
Inflation's at currently 3% a year. So, the inflation plus population alone is going up
mm,
4%. We're going up 1.7. So
mm,
we are demanding that every year the
mm,
government gets 2% more efficient because that's the difference
mm.
between your 4% roughly and your 1.7,
Sure.
maybe a bit more than 2% efficiency out of government every year. We do that for 4 years, suddenly you've got nearly 10% efficiency gain out of government. That's absolutely critical as well. So we are really doing everything we can to make sure that politicians spend your money as carefully as you do.
Yeah.
We didn't earn it, but we have an obligation to spend it carefully.
Absolutely. So just on that, I'm very inclined to ask you this, education is definitely one of the major and the main uh, drives for our economy and for our people. So in that, how do you see your advocacy for charter schools? That you think is it a complete overall curriculum? Like people don't want to change the whole curriculum, but then we want to improve the curriculum. But then, in terms of schooling, in terms of giving access to the schooling, and when it comes to difference between the public schools and the charter schools, do you think it will be more, this initiative could also lead to more development of people in terms of what you see?
Well, there's always going to be people that need something different.
Yeah,
So you
correct.
take, for example, you're a girl in South Auckland, your heritage is Pacific. You've
Mm,
never quite felt confident in the school system, but you come along
mm,
and you see the Queen's program, which is designed to empower you, to make you feel good about yourself. And so you're in the Queen program, but then you go back to school and it doesn't quite feel the same. The
mm,
people that are running the Queen program have started up a new school called Sisters United.
mm,
And they're going to take the same thing that's been working to support children outside school. They're going to run a whole school that way. And it seems to me that if we can show new ways of running schools that empower students, but still keep the same high
yeah.
standards of academic success and
Mhm,
attendance,
mm.
then why shouldn't we? We've got to experiment. We can't win by doing everything the same way as we always have.
I agree, 100% agree on that. Like we had to change something to make more, and with the recent changes that we see around the world, also, we have to compete. It's not about competition, but it's about getting better than the others, right? That's the focus. So coming on to that finance section, I'm quite inclined because you talked a lot more about the wasteful spending. And in your terms, what does wasteful spending means? Like, for example, yes, we had an unprecedented event like COVID, and then we had to spend because we borrowed. So we borrowed and we spent. But then there are other spending which you are rightly said that portfolios or wastage of ministerial positions or departments or merging can have reduced to a lot of effectiveness of utilization of money by just merging and by just doing certain little things. How do you see that as now going forward in terms of?
Well, there's an old saying, If you
Mm.
watch the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. In other words, if you save lots of
Yeah.
small amounts, you save a lot. I'll
Mm.
give you one example.
Mhm.
Under the previous government, they funded a group who had a so-called science project
Mhm.
where they went into the bush in the Waitakere Ranges west of Auckland and
Right.
they played whale sounds out of loudspeakers
Mm.
to the kauri trees.
Yep.
And the theory was that because the kauri trees are cousins of the whales in Maori mythology,
Mhm.
playing the whale sounds to the kauri trees would help fix or cure the kauri dieback, which was a fungal disease affecting the kauri trees.
Right.
Now, I haven't made any of that up. All of that happened.
Yes.
And I'm proud to say we have cancelled that funding. Well,
Mhm.
here's another one. The previous guy spent $50 million researching a bike bridge over the harbour bridge, and
Mhm.
they never built it. So that's $50 million that went nowhere. And I could have told them straight away, nobody wants to ride a bike to
Mm.
Northcote. That they may want to get to Takapuna or Devonport or Milford or somewhere around that region,
Mm.
but that's another 5 Ks from where you get off the harbour bridge. People don't want to do that. So, it was always a silly idea. And yet they somehow spent all this money on it. So, we're not doing things like that anymore. We're saving millions and millions of dollars just by not spending it on silly things.
But what about the when it comes to health, particularly, I want to ask this question because there's at the moment there's a lot of things going on, ifs and buts about the health system or about the wait listing and wait, but most importantly about the access to the drugs, where we call ourselves like, okay, we are one of those nations where we have get better access to drugs of any disease, but then we still struggle with many diseases that we don't have funded drugs. How do you see? Because I remember you taking the on the pharmac
Yeah.
situation as well. Tell me something about that, about pharmac, how it works, and what your moving forward process is going to be to get the betterment for all the diseases to be covered or to maximum to be covered, for people.
Yeah, look, it's partly about how much wealth New Zealand has, and it's
Mhm.
partly about what percentage of our wealth we put into medicines. Right now,
Mhm.
we're a poorer country than Australia or Canada or the United States or most of Europe. So we have less money to put into everything. It's also true that we put a smaller percentage of our wealth into medicine. So we end up with some of the least access to medicines of any country. And you're right that that causes serious problems because
Mhm.
we might be using chemotherapy, which is very tough to take and really, knocks people's hair out and affects them in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
Whereas overseas, that they're getting more modern techniques that are more effective and have less side effects for the patients. How do
Mhm.
we make sure that we're moving up? Well, already we've made a decision as a government to put a higher portion of our wealth in. So we've increased spending by, about in total about $600 million a year. So we've gone from about 1.1 million to about 1.7, 1.8 million.
Mhm.
So we've increased spending by more than 50%
Mhm.
compared with what was previously forecast. That's made a big difference. The second thing is we've got to grow the economy. Some people think the economy doesn't matter and we should all just be nice to each other and
Mhm.
everything's fine. But medicines are one area where you realize the importance of economic growth. Until we get wealthier as a country, we won't be able to increase our spending on medicines. And that's why it's critical that we actually do better.
But also, do you think that with the research, you think that because you are also you've taken up the regulations and the regulatory portfolio where you can make effective policies around everything, particularly with the health, do you think that we have enough research of what really needs more drugs in New Zealand compared to other countries? Because every other country has got a different dynamics of ailment and diseases that they need drugs for, which is, but for
Mm.
New Zealand, have we got enough information to do that? Okay, we need this much money to be invested in health, mainly prioritizing it rather than wasting or having a funds available for drugs that we don't use much. but drugs that we use more, don't you think that we should be having enough research on that, or do we have enough on it?
Well, we do have good research. Pharmac does very competitive work,
Mm,
assessing the costs and benefits of each medication. And that we're also training them to challenge the rest of the government and say, hey, if we spent more on medicines, perhaps we could get better value that way too. So,
hmm
I think Pharmac does actually do good work in evaluating or
hmm
assessing the value for money of a proposed medicine. I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, okay. Now we want to come on that another aspect of what you think about the current with the floods, with the environmental changes, with the climatic changes. We have seen many people in my constituency as well, like suffering from housing issues caused by the floods or the more cost effectiveness for them. The cost has gone up, whether it's insurance, whether it is, maintaining the property, the rates and all of that. How do you see your policies would make a good impression or good kind of a governance in terms of giving benefits to the people, particularly when it comes to housing? Because housing relates to their businesses as well. Many businesses, small businesses, put their housing for mortgage and take loan and run the businesses. So that becomes a critical, thing for us to understand. What's your kind of thoughts on that coming forward in
Well, we need to make it
politics?
easier to build a house in this country.
Hmm. Yeah,
This
that's true.
country is practically empty. It's huge. It's got almost no people, and yet you've got a whole generation without a place to live. Now, if you think about it from a business point of view, I take your point that
Hmm.
a lot of businesses use mortgage equity as working capital, and it's
Correct.
actually the way that a lot of people get from working for someone else to
Hmm.
running their own business and perhaps employing others. It's a time-honored stepping stone.
Hmm.
But in the long run, it's not going to work if people don't have the opportunity to buy their own place. And you think
Hmm.
about somebody who's just come out of university, they got 50,000 student loan, they're earning 50,000 a year in their graduate job. They look at anything that looks vaguely like a house they recognize, like their parents had, and it's way over $1 million. And they
Hmm.
think, I can't afford 20 years' salary to buy a house, so I'll never be able to do it. Meanwhile, they're paying high rents, they can't save very much. It's very, very difficult for them to get on the property ladder. So we've got to make it easier to build a house so people can get on the ladder in the first place. That's
Hmm.
why we're simplifying the Resource Management Act. That's
Hmm.
why we're simplifying the building materials regulation so we can get more competitive, affordable materials from overseas. And
Hmm.
that's why we're changing the way we fund infrastructure. So we've got the pipes and the roads to join all these newly consented and built houses together. So there's a whole lot of work going on at government level. This country's big advantage is that it's a nice place to live. But to live here, you need a house. So we've got to make it easier to build a house.
Absolutely. So, and the other aspect that's related to that, which I was mentioning, is about the insurance cost. And we have ACC here funded, but then we have to, most of the people then are advised to do a private insurance just purely because of the queue or purely because of fast tracking their own health issues that they can do it through private insurance. Do you think this is an ideal thing, or we should have a comprehensive thinking about why not make ACC the whole lot for everything and anything emergency, urgency, also to be dealt by one insurance rather than having two insurances, one private and one ACC already for with every individual has got that to do. Is it something that is can be changed that you think the way we are operating currently?
Well, a lot of people criticize ACC, but it has brought us one big advantage.
Hmm.
That big advantage is that everybody has the same insurer. We have what
Yes.
we call a no-fault accident insurance scheme, and
Hmm.
that means that people don't all end up suing each other all the
Hmm.
time. Other countries, you don't have no-fault coverage from ACC,
Hmm.
but you do have the right to sue. And I don't know if those countries are better off with all that legal activity
Hmm.
instead of insurance activity.
Right, right, right. Yeah, because the cost of insurance is so much at this point for private insurances, but most importantly is the getting the treatment done faster. That's what we are struggling at the moment. Is there anything that's happening in that front that your party that you would like to see change from what the other governments have been doing?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, it's all about value for money.
Hmm.
The guys before us, they spent a huge amount of effort trying to get the healthcare system merged from 20 DHBs into one.
Hmm.
Now, they did that,
Hmm.
but they didn't join together
Hmm.
the systems that allow the different patient records to talk to each other. So
Hmm.
if I, as an Aucklander, get in a car crash in Hamilton, I go along
Hmm.
to the I go along to the uh, hospital in Waikato, and they have to email Auckland to get my patient records.
Hmm.
And this is a crazy thing, right? So the previous
Hmm.
guys, they merged all the DHBs together, but they didn't merge the health records. They just gave them all the same letterhead, basically, on their letters.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
we got to really drive value for money by spending on the technology that makes workers more efficient,
Hmm.
but also making sure that we don't just do superficial things that don't actually solve any problems. That's really what the previous guys did for 5 years with this big merger, which, by the way, cost $500 million.
Hmm. And in terms of like other aspects of health, when we talk about, particularly has been a talking town of the town, like the dental services, which
Mm.
is costing and not having enough doctors or not having enough, resources, but costing more for the health and for the people. And that's one of the costs that do you think that your policy there would be anything, or you think that the dental should be covered under the health or not? Or is it just going to be separate, just what traditionally dental was never included in the health as a support system?
Well, if you include dental,
Hmm.
you only have to look at the UK, where the NHS is responsible for your dentistry,
Mm-hmm.
and British don't have great teeth. Because the
Right.
thing is, when it's free, it's not really free. It just means the taxpayer's paying.
This tax was
And
money.
so if
Yeah,
the taxpayer's
absolutely.
paying instead of you, then
Mm,
okay, you don't pay anything, but you also are no longer a valued customer. So you don't decide what you get. The taxpayer decides what you get. And the taxpayer doesn't know what you need because it's not their teeth, they're your teeth.
mm,
So I'm in favor of people paying themselves wherever possible. And if people really can't pay, then there should be income support. But the idea of the government taking over dental care is makes me terrified.
mm. The only thing which most of the people where I talk to or debate is like, okay, is dental not a part of the health? Why they have been separating dental as separated from the health? It is one of the part of the health, just like every other health part of the body, right? That's
Yeah.
the debate, and that's the challenge that we
Yeah,
have.
look, it's a very interesting discussion. It could go on for a
Yeah,
long
it's
time,
go
but
on
I
for a
think we
long
were
time.
scheduled
Yeah,
to talk for
I
15
know.
minutes, weren't we?
I know, I know. So, coming to your vision in the coming now that you have taken this position, you have been in this position, and where do you see now your in the further up to the next year that you have policies that are coming up that could really affect and impact every New Zealanders? Is there something that is more
Look,
in the
mate, there's heaps of
pipeline?
them, but we agreed we'd do this for 15 minutes.
Hmm.
And it's, you're not really even asking me questions. You're just
Hmm.
suggesting broad topics. So why don't we
I'm
wrap it
asking
up?
you to give me something that is, in your view, is positive for people to listen. What is
Yeah,
it that you
yeah.
could?
No, we've done that for a while.
Mhm.
I'll have to
Mhm.
let you go, and
Sure.
I thank you for having me on your show.
No, no, thank you very much, David, for this.
All
And
right.
you might probably make a specific topic next time, and then you can
It
talk
sounds like
about
a
it.
plan. You go
Okay?
well.
All right.
Bye for
Thanks
now.
very much. Take care, David.